it's time for us to get serious. This stuff about the voting rights bill and all these bills to protect the voter, we've been kind of blaming Republicans for not getting it done, right? They're the ones stopping progress for us to ensure that voting is good for everybody, is applicable to everybody. And we blame them. But the reality is, Democrats have it in their hands to make the change if they want to. And that is by carving out an exception in the filibuster. They choose not to do it, and they use it on false pretenses. Because when Republicans really want to get what they need to get done, they go ahead and they create a carve-out in the filibuster. The same with Democrats. They've done it several times with regular judges, with Supreme Court judges, with budget reconciliation, etc., etc., etc. Now, where it comes to our democracy, one would think that you would pull out all stops if you have to create a carve-out for democracy. You would. Why wouldn't the Democrats do that when they run the risk of losing the House, when they run the risk of losing the Senate? Why wouldn't they do it? Why would they allow voter suppression to reign? Eddie Glaude says something that we've been talking about on Politics Done Right for a long time. Here is the perfect corroboration.
No one's asking them to get uncomfortable. They're asking them to do something that Republicans do in their push for federal judges on the bench. It's we have put aside the filibuster as a country, both political parties. It's not a law. It's not in the Constitution. It's a norm. Where do you think the Democrats are in their headspace about doing something abnormal to protect the right to vote?
I'm not sure, Nicole, and I think there are two ways in which we could read this, right? And you use the word existential. I think for Republicans, given the data that Matt cited with regards to the changing demographics of the country, they view those demographics as an existential threat to the country that they think should be, that they believe America should be a white nation. So they're approaching the issue of voting in the ballot box as an existential question, while many Democrats are approaching it as a procedural or process question. That's the generous read, Nicole. The more cynical read is that the voting, the For the People Act actually empowers voters across the board and would jeopardize Democrats' political position. It would make insurgent candidacies even more likely because they could mobilize and actually get out the vote in more people can vote, which means that politicians, no matter where you are on the political spectrum, would have to defend themselves. They would have to defend their seats. So the cynical read is not about Republicans and Democrats. It's about politicians who are interested and invested in keeping their seats. And we have to understand that as one reason why some of these folk are hesitant, Nicole. That's the only reason I can jump. That's the only conclusion I can come to, because they're saying one thing out of their mouths and they're doing another thing in terms of their practice.
Well, and so Eddie, let me follow up. I mean, there'll be another vote in the House on the new John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And I guess your point is it'll pass the House, but if the fact of the what of federal legislation is what they're afraid of, maybe it'll meet the same fate. Is that your worry?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can provide yourself political cover with the theater of passing this legislation in the House, knowing that there's not a filibuster carve-out in the Senate, knowing that it's going to die in the Senate. And so we see civic violence happening not only in our day-to-day lives, as Republicans attack the voting rights of millions of Americans, young, black, poor, and the like. And then we see the civic negligence on the part of politicians who refuse, in some ways, to protect American democracy. And it's not just a Republican issue now. It's all of them, Nicole.
And that's the magic. As if we look at it as a Republican stopping progress, Republicans are doing what they think is necessary for them to maintain power. And Democrats, the ones that are preventing the filibuster, are doing it to make sure that they can still maintain a modicum of power. Because in their opinion, remember, if you take a poll of the United States of America, most Americans are progressive. Most Democrats, or a large percentage of Democrats, are not progressive. A large percentage of Republicans are not progressive. So the idea here is this is really not about the establishment or about Democrat or Republican. This is about making America a progressive country that benefits all. And if we really have the freedom to vote, our intent, if we are really going to vote our values, irrespective of Republican or Democrat, we generally have similar, congruent values. And that is what all sides fear. That our value system defeats the party system. And when that happens, remember my motto. Whenever we unite, Appalachia, the ghettos, and the barrios, we would have won the fight. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.